Boom. All right, I think I am live here. If I'm not mistaken. Boom. Salutations. I had somebody send me in during an email say that, man, you don't have your glasses on or your hoodie on or nothing when you come on anymore. I said, well, that was something that was really just for the fast blast because in that room he had a bunch of these bright lights so you could be seen. And I mean, it kind of after the TBI, my eyes are a little bit sensitive to really bright lights, which is interesting because they were never before. But that's the reason often I'd have those sunglasses on because after you turn the lights on, I need a second to adjust. So it was kind of what that was. It wasn't really a cool fashion statement, sadly. Anyway, welcome. This is going to be a really fun live. I don't think it's going to be super long, but it will be very interesting as I'm always looking for correlations. So I appreciate everybody that showed up and came today. It is very hot outside still. And let me go to the chat here. And I put up several videos here that will be referenced during the live. Muriel, thank you for being here. Much love, my friend. Much love. Always good to hear from you. I hope that everything's going good, if you know what I mean. Very great work, my friend. Great work. Thank you for coming too, Muriel. It's always good to see you. Mike Jones, what's happening, man? Thanks for being here. What's going down? Always appreciate you showing up, brother. Kyle, what's up, Kyle? Thank you for being here, man. Welcome to the platform. Kyle's been a excuse me, long-time supporter, so that is appreciated, my man. Very much appreciated. Elda 4243, welcome. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. And I look forward to kind of interacting and hope you have a good time. A lot of people in the chat normally will show up, and it's good to have you. So thank you. The chats are always probably one of the coolest things about all this stuff. So, the B Carper, what's going on? Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you as usual. Greetings. Thank you for being here. It's promoting James and the whole SSP thing. I knew James, met him twice actually, and interesting. I've talked a little bit about how I didn't like how there were people in the community that were exploiting him. And if you met him in person, you would know exactly what I mean. There were people exploiting him, he was all into that SSP thing. In Asheville, we hung out for a few days actually, and went to see the brown mountain lights and some other things. I even did one of his episodes while we were up there, but I don't know if it ever got processed and aired. But yeah, he's an interesting cat. And I liked it because we came to a deal because we have different types of experiences and we got to rap about that. I'm not SSP. My stuff's not been like that. His has, so we got to talk about that, and it was cool. I remember we had had a couple of brews at this place that flooded out right after I left Asheville. It seemed like 2 weeks later they had a horrible flood out there. And he was sending me pictures saying, man, that whole place we were at, this brewery we were at, it's destroyed. The pictures were really terrible. So anyway, I like James. In fact, before he passed, we did a show together on Jessica's show. It's really a good one, actually. And I told him that, I liked, what he's doing. Everything I told him in person, but I wanted to make sure people heard it. So anyway, that's cool. So, but this, everybody knows, this isn't a deal. And what we're dealing with here, this type of contact, I'm going to make it very clear, is not SSP. Okay. That is not the contact I come from. That is not my modality. I have no problem with it. But that is a narrative that has been asserted through a hive mind and neuroprogramming. I'm not one of those people. So I'm just acknowledging that. But my understanding to all that do, I don't judge, but they're just different types of contact. And some of us are having positive contact that's not being talked about. So that's what I really stand for. And that's my platform. I just want that to be known, okay? So people don't think all of a sudden I'm talking about all this neuroprogramming and DARPA and Ultra, MK Ultra. That's not my thing, okay? And if you look at like the work of Ray Hernandez and them, there's a lot more like me than those that are having these other negative experiences. It is just the way it is. So anyway, what's up, Kyle? Lavender Panther. What's happening? What's up? Somebody that heard the other, I didn't know how bad I should go into the stuff about the charters because there might be some new people that have not heard me talk about this before. So thank you for that. Why does that keep coming up? Greetings, Roger Blair. What's happening, bro? Muriel, right on. A few people here. Thomas Robinson, thank you for being here. Yeah, most of my life. But that's, if you look around on the channel, you'll see that pretty easy. What's happening? Lemon Jim, thank you for being here. Oh, how cool, how cool. Well, I guess I can say we, did a little bit of work together, and she did wonderful work. Very, very great. And I'm very blessed. The last few clients that I've had have come from Jessica's group, actually. And it's been a pleasure working with everybody from Jessica's group. Also, this is going to involve some other clients that I've had too that came from another source. This whole topic will. And it's one of the reasons I'm going to go forward with it. But I think it'll be fun as I'm letting people check in here. But thank you for saying that, Muriel. Really appreciate that. Polar 4311. Welcome from Brazil. Welcome. Thank you for being here. It's always cool. That's what's cool about the internet now. We can communicate like across the world. You know what I mean? It's like no big thing now around the world. Cool. Much better than the days of those telephones. Boy, they're just charging people up intensely from there. But welcome. Rosie Cheeks. Rosie, what's happening? Thank you for being here. Rosie, please put your YouTube channel in the comments if you could. Link it in there. You just released a cool video today. I've not got to see it yet, but it was something concerning a mermaid emerging from an individual or something like that. So I'll definitely look at it when I get to, I've got a client after I get done with this live, but after that, I'm going to check it out, definitely. So everybody check out Rosie's channel. She's really cool with the whole mermaid thing and knows quite a bit about them. Susan, welcome. Wow, very cool. A few people showing up. Awesome. King Amelia Productions 9928. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Oh, that's just cool. A few people showing up. Excellent. Varkalum. Greetings. Thank you for being here. Cool. Well, hey, greetings, Bookney. Thank you for being here. All right, now here's the part where I'm not exactly sure how to take the comment off. But hopefully that's not so big that everybody gets mad at me. I have these technical difficulties from time to time, all right? But anyway, so let's how do I start this? Okay, a lot of you have heard me talk about the charters before, okay? And the charters are individuals that show up. At one point, it was when I really started noticing it for us, those of us that are lifetime contactees. They would seem to show up every 7 years. And when I say this, these are individuals that come out of a crowd And it's interesting, when I first started talking about this, when I first came forward in 2014, I probably got more responses on this than anything else. So the charters are individuals that come out of, like, it can be at an airport, a bus stop, a library, you know, a public place, a grocery store. They come out of, you know, a crowd, and they come up to you for a minute or two, even less than that, and just say a couple things to you that are so heavy that you don't, I mean, it makes you resonate. And then they're just gone. They're gone back in the crowd. Okay. And what I noticed, they tend to pop up every 7 years. And when I first talked about this, I got so many responses from people, like emails about this particularly. Okay. And, you know, there's a saying, what is it, that often people have entertained angels have been unaware of it. I think this may be more on maybe an extraterrestrial level, in terms of they feel, if you can really feel energy, okay, they feel to me like people from the future. And what happens if humanity does not destroy ourselves? What will people be like in the next 2,000 or 3,000 years? You know what I mean? Before we change to a different physical container. That's what they feel like to me. And given it be that we somewhat live within a dome of perception, so to speak, it's not at all hard to understand. So, you know, but I can't say, hey, are you from Pleiades or whatever, stuff like that, but they just feel like people that are advanced. And if you can sense energy, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so one thing at a time, and why I'm bringing this up. All right, so here. In fact, I've got all these pictures. Okay, well, you know what? I'll just do one at a time. Well, I've got to do that anyway, obviously, duh. But I mean, as far as presentation, I was going to go a different level, but I'll get this out of the way first. All right. So, yeah, that's what we'll do. Sorry, folks. Sorry, I spaced out temporarily. I just had to make sure I want to track this, so I'm not in here just talking and babbling forever. So I think that's not entertaining. Okay. When concerning the charters, all right, for me, this first, and it's weird because I was not aware of exactly what it was at first. I had to put together what was happening. And this is a deal where, and I don't want to go too far into this. I've talked about this on the other charter videos I've done. But for those that may not have heard it, you know, I'll just speak on it anyway. So the first time it happened, it was for me, it would have been 7 years old. I had met this gentleman here. And where I was my mother was an antique collector and interior decorator. So she would go to these weird antique shops and stuff like that. I'd always accompany her. And this one was like it was like a bigger room type antique store, you know, one of those. But from on the side of it, they had these books, like in one corner of it or one area of it, they had these books and all this waterfall with these waters and with this waterfall and then these rocks in there. And I took a liking to one of the rocks that's in this contraption because it looked like one from this show I was watching that was called Under the Mountain. I could run home after school and it's on Nickelodeon right after You Can't Do That on television, where I heard that, to be dumping the green stuff on people with moose. Anyway, sorry. I watched that first, but then after that, this Under the Mountain would come on. And it was about this gentleman who was from another galaxy named Mr. Jones. And Mr. Jones had these rocks he had brought. He had come here from another galaxy pursuing these creatures called the Wilberforce. There were some type of symbiotic worms that could shapeshift. Okay, and they were they're trying to wake a large worm or something. Anyway, it came out of New Zealand, And I took interest in that author, Maurice Guy, and there's another Guy that's a contactee that I've talked about that really goes deep into organic craft. Anyway, this was good show. And so this rock looked like, in fact, this is it right here. All right, that looked like similar to these rocks that he brought that he needed these twins to use. So I kind of wanted that rock just for that reason. And this guy comes out from like the back room. And, at first I thought he worked there. But as I look back on it now, I don't know. But I think that he knew the people that owned it or whatever, but I don't think he actually worked there. Maybe he was just, visiting people. Anyway, he comes out from the back and he walks up to me and he says, "Young man, do you think Ignatian's rocks are metamorphic by nature?" And I remember looking at him, I say, "Yeah, but it's not immediate. It takes too long, millions of years. It needs to be immediate like Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby, the Hulk. The metamorphosis needs to be immediate." I remember him started laughing. He said, "It doesn't work quite like that." Now, I'm going to ask you, now, it just happens to be at that time, my older brother was back from LA at some point, and he was laughing at me because I was trying to freeze and boil rocks, sandstone, to get it to turn into quartz under immediate pressure. Just stuff, stuff kids do. And when I tell you this individual, who do you know that comes up to a 7-year-old kid and says something like that? Unless you know something about them. Now, he winds up getting in there and giving me this rock. And it, before we leave, he says, "I'm gonna give this stone to you, but I want you to join this." And he gives me this blue card. He said, "It's free. Just join it." And he gives it. I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I'm leaving. He says, "That's a very special stone. You should put it under your pillow and dream with it." That's what he said. I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, man. I got a rock," and I left. I remember getting in the car, and this is not like I'm in any danger. I'm in eye shot of my mother the whole time, And I remember getting in the car, and she says, "Well, that white man was very taken with you." I was like, "Shoot, I don't care. I got this rock." And I started looking at this card, and that card was for the Mineral and Gem Society in my state. Yeah, which is where I would later on, 20 years later, get this looked at under ultraviolet light, and it's just got these little weird specks on it that a river stone should not. Very odd. The guy was even asking, "Where'd you get that?" So, oh man, So anyway, this individual right here, and I didn't associate this with my contact experiences. Okay, it's just one of those weird things that happened that I got something. You know what I mean? And then later on, years later, I had this lady named White Dove, a well-known psychic in my town, tell me that I had a friend that on board this craft had given me something. And I'm like, "What?" It's the craft you saw with your parent. And I was like, man, she was kind of new age. Like, she's very talented, though. Don't get me wrong. She was old, and I was going to meet her a number of ways. I was like, "Man, I ain't never seen no ship with my parent. What you talking about?" And she's looking at me. She goes, "We probably just can't remember it because they were there because of you. It wasn't just some scout mission. They were there because of you." Now, time goes on, okay? And there is a point where my mother had I don't want to. I've got to talk about this because if people don't understand, it's too weird. So if you heard this before, I do apologize, but it is necessary. All right. So my mother calls me to go to the house to grab some stuff she's going to throw out because I left it there for years, and it was a box of my Omni magazines. If you all remember Omni, it was pretty cool. In the middle of it, I liked it because it had a section called Antimatter. And in Antimatter, they talked about UFOs and contact and stuff like that. Heck, that's the first time I heard about Billy Myers was in that. So anyway, there was these ships like on this page, these different UFOs, and my mother's walking by, and I mean I was in my like early 30s, very early 30s, and she pointed at one. She goes, "Oh, that's like the one you and I saw." I looked back at her. I said, "What?" And she started telling me about it. She goes, I remember her first look at me. She looked so shocked. She had laundry bags, and she said, "You, Mister," and this is long before I ever had TBI or anything in my life. Okay, so this is pre all that. And my mother says, she says, "You, Mister Creepy Star Trek memory, you can't remember seeing that UFO." And then when she mentioned that we were going to from a place to Ardennes to Toy City, it was a mall on the east side of town, and it was outside. You had to walk outside to get from store to store. And we saw this thing then because she was taking me back to trade in. I had got a Stretch Armstrong. Actually, it wasn't the Stretch Armstrong. It was the Stretch Monster. It looked like some sort of like reptilian amphibian thing. It started leaking the first day I was pulling it. They got it for my birthday, and it started leaking this red stuff. And my mother said it was probably toxic and nuclear goo, so we was gonna take it back. And we saw this thing then. And I had to get her to start describing things to me, and then I could remember it. You know what I mean? And it was these vents, and then what almost looked like windows from the outside. And I'm showing you this. Christine Jones did this for me, or Christine Dennett. She did this for me. Oh gosh, 2012. Anyway, it looks like it has windows, and the crafts I've been on board are organic, so they don't have technically windows, but that's what makes this thing rather interesting. Okay, and just so you have another reference that I will show with you, just to annoy y'all, is this ship that it's actually seen in New Mexico in the late 70s, I believe. I'm sorry I didn't label this one. It should have been, but I've transferred it so many times. And this is just so you get a feel for this craft. There you go. It looked quite similar to that. Okay. And that one from the distance, I think I've got a distant pic on there. You can see how it appears to have like windows too on that middle strip there. So I'm sorry, that actually is not a good representation. I mean, as far as it's just not a good picture. I've got another one of it though. Yeah, this one's better. This one's better. Yeah, there we go. All right. I think this is much better picture here. Sorry, I should have just showed this one first. Boom, right there. That craft looked a lot like that. Okay, you can see those. You see those things look like windows in the middle, and have these little grates in between it. And I remember then when she started telling me, my mother wasn't all that patient all the time, so I didn't get to ask too many questions before she got it noticeably annoyed. But she was describing the hum. I remember the hum that it had, and it was big. And at first she was saying that must be because across the street from this mall were these car lots. There's a dirt road back then, and there's car lots over there. And she was saying it must be some sort of an advertisement for the car lots. And it hovered for a minute, and then it was kind of like a dot, and it was just gone. Okay, but that right there looks quite similar to it. And this was from a gentleman in New Mexico. I'm sorry I can't remember his name. Okay, and for reasons I believe that is a time ship. And this is as pertaining to charters here, okay, is that when I had that went down and just I became a little bit obsessive about it because I do have a really good memory. And I remember mentioning to my older brother, Mitch, I said, it's very odd that I can't remember seeing this thing fully. As much as I remember everything, I can't fully remember this, and it's kind of just hazy. And that only happens when I've had some type of contact. All right. So I wanted to do a regression specifically just to see more detail about that ship, what I saw. Okay, that's all I did the regression for. I wanted to really get a real good detailed look at it so I can maybe try to find out more. You know what I mean? And then, so I did a regression specifically for that. And what happens in the regression, I got off way more than I bit off I could chew. Okay, is that this is the illustration from Christine, but that's supposed to be the mall, really, not just houses, but it's still accurate enough. I'm standing up here with these individuals looking, I can see myself and see the city, see the water tower. And at first, this was just like a gray wall, a metal looking wall. And this tall individual waves his hand and I can see out of it. Okay. We're talking about a bilocation that was done right there while I'm watching this thing. And these individuals had these boxes on. They didn't look quite like twins, but almost like fraternal. And he's the only one that communicated, gave me the name was telepathically. He was telling me Alex was his name with 2 L's. Capital A, capital L with the hyphen LEX. That's what I was seeing in my mind and getting from him. Okay. Now, this individual standing up, minus the goatee thing, is the same individual that was in the shop. Okay. And I can only tell you, look, I'm not an expert on Caucasian genetics, but I would say he looked like maybe he was 60 at most and fit 60, but it was the hair. I would assume that maybe if he was younger, maybe it would have been more blonde and grayish, but he had it in a mullet. And if you want to, people laugh, but if you want to be exact, check out Knight Rider, like the 2nd season, or maybe the 3rd season. And Hasselhoff has a mullet, just like this cat was wearing. Okay. With the little shag back there. Anyway, point being, I've talked before, I believe these individuals, not just charters, but we come down to what different types of charters do we have. I believe these are historians. I think that I've called them the Temporal Commission because maybe they help keep the timeline straight. But when dealing with observation of recording history, this would be the perfect way. And I believe this machine, or this window, this way, how it was, I think this is also a chronovisor, more advanced than what we're familiar with. But I think it's a way that they can also record history amongst other things and perhaps do timeline protection. So I've kind of called them a temporal commission. All right. But nonetheless, this would have been my charter. Same individual that gave me that rock. And I'll tell you that I had got this regression done, man, years before I actually listened to it. Because I thought I could remember most of the regression, because it's a physical experience for the most part. But there's certain things I didn't listen to the tape for years, even after I had come forward. So then I've been slamming some of the Fabio Nordics, and I realized I'd interacted with them to some degree anyway. And these cats had on these tight blue suits. That was, man, it gives me a low sperm count just looking at it, like the superhero suits or Star Trek: The Next Generation, the 1st season. There's no way you'd be crawling in Jeffrey tubes in that thing, but I imagine it's some type of meta material. And also, I don't know what was with the silver boxes with the wires that were on the front and back, but hey, it is what it is, Anyway, but that's my first experience with charters. And since then, I've had, like every 7 years. When I was 21, the one that I met was melanin dominant female that I think was maybe connected to the Inner Earth Ebenoid tribes. And talked about that before. And that was probably one of the strongest telepaths I've interacted with. It was a whole weird deal going on there. And then the next one that I remember meeting after that was an individual that caught me outside of Walgreens. I actually got the chicken pox. I was right at that 7th year there. I just got that chicken pox, and I never got any of those childhood diseases. And I caught this from some clients that were spreading it through the facility, and I wound up catching that stuff. It was miserable. Anyway, I was going up to the Walgreens to get some medicine, and this cat was outside. And I was talking to this dude that was actually an ex-convict that had turned substance abuse counselor. It's pretty good, too. And he wanted to do some business, so we were talking about maybe possibly doing some joint work on one of these facilities. But anyway, this individual approached us on the while we're standing there. He's on a bike. I'll never forget him. His torso was like kind of too long for his legs, if that makes any sense. And he had on this hat and these again, like almost like kind of a kitty cat type of glasses, these big glasses. We're kitty cats, but they were just these odd glasses. And it looked like he thought like he was like he looked really cool, but he looked like out of place. He comes up and asks us for money in this really soft voice. And it was so odd, and the way he felt. I remember Orville reached in his pocket and gave the dude like $5. And then I gave the dude like a buck or two too, just whatever, And I remember looking at us and going, "Thank you, God bless, thank you," and going on. And it made it feel like you just did something to burn some karma, like he gave you that chance. And I knew, yes, he's one of them. You know what I mean? And when he starts going on, I started thinking that, and he turned and looked, and he kept going then. And I went around the other side of the street, and I watched him for a second till he disappeared after he talked to a couple other people. But it's a situation like that is when you encounter, so often, I've said this before, that these extraterrestrials that walk around in our population, they look like homeless people most of the time. Those are the people that most people avoid, and it's the best way to observe humanity is to walk around as homeless, okay? Straight up. And I've noticed this especially when it comes to melanin dominant extraterrestrials. I've been aware of a few of them that are masqueraded as homeless. And if you look at watch the movie, I've never done this live on it. The Brother from Another Planet, he got rescued by them cats that they all look like homeless, and they were watching him. And just before he about got wasted at the end, old Joe Morton, he got saved by them. And he's looking at him because every time people would ask where he's from, he'd just go like that. Because he never spoke that whole movie. He never said nothing. And he goes like that. And the homeless brother looked at him like that, meaning down. But nonetheless, these little hidden gems. So anyway, so those are my experiences then. Then the next one would be when I was it my first year going out to the SETI Ranch. That would have been a 7th year for me too. And I'm sure that elder Sasquatch thing out there that was on my black ass since I got out there, I'm convinced that was also my charter for that year. Okay, and why he knew I was obviously coming there before I even decided to come. That whole communication of obsession with albino Sasquatch thing, that to me is, what that means. And I'm thinking, why are all the people out there, these things messing with me? That's what it was. I think he was my charter for that year. And we don't know how old these things are and really what they, you know what I'm saying? They may recognize us from other incarnations. We don't know. Anyway, okay. Now go over here and real quick. Sunfire Goddess, what's happening, Tamara? Thank you for coming. Oh, cool. Cool, right on. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Okay, I better keep talking or I'll get to I'll go to the comments after because I want to take this to the other level of it now, okay? And why I've decided to do this. And we can call this what is the advancement, because I've been saying for a long time that this happens every 7 years to those of us that are lifetime contactees, but I've always felt that it's supposed to accelerate. It's supposed to advance. More people interacting with these charters, maybe different types of charters. I don't know. Oh, excuse me. I don't know. But okay. Yeah. Oh, thought about lost everybody for a minute. Okay, I'm still here. All right. That was kind of scary. All right. When I have to pay attention to things when they come in threes, all right. I had 3 clients somewhat recently, and all 3 of them told me that they had learned about me through this brother named Brother Yosef. And his name's been brought to me before, okay? But when it comes like that, like 3, when spirit communicates with me, it comes in threes, okay? And like 3 omens. And this is weird because the first time his name was brought to me, it's while my dad was almost in the hospice thing, and I was so busy I didn't really get to look into it a whole lot. But this time when I got this 3, I knew I was supposed to. All right, now it caught my attention big time, and I one of the clients said it was this one. So he's mentioned you a few times, and they sent me a video that is this brother Yosef, and another gentleman named Brother Rich, and he mentions my name during this, and he says, "Oh, he doesn't get the credit that he should, but he's real. He goes up on ships like I do, yada yada." And it made me watch that whole video, and then I was blown away because I was catching big time Artron energy off this brother. Okay, meaning Artron, meaning he's been on board craft or around non-humans or both. Okay, straight up. And to be quite honest, from a non-ego aspect, man, it was damn nice to get a little bit of recognition, especially from another melanin dominant brother. Because when I first came forward, I really was addressing the melanin dominant community and trying to bring all of us to some sort of a tapestry of understanding this of all cultures. But I really addressed the melanin dominant community. And I was greeted with these fools, these step and fetch it cats that are some sort of gatekeepers for those who are going to be contactees for the melanin dominant community. And these cats aren't even contactees. That didn't go good. So, and then I met a couple of people that are just crooks, you know, and one would be an individual that was just sent to me a clip just recently. Oh, this person is saying, don't go into light, and the moon is a tourist field that's a trap for the souls and this and that. And you know, I'm just gonna say this, all right? That individual is not a medium. They're just psychic a little bit. They're not a medium. They have not had a near-death experience. Okay, and they've not done the freaking work. They've not done the work. How are they going to tell you about how your soul's going to get trapped when they've not seen nothing? They've not done nothing. They're talking what somebody else told them that they can't even tell you where that originated at. So you got to use discernment. Okay, so I want to give much props to this brother for even acknowledging me. Much love to you. I'm looking more into his work, and I'm going to try to reach out to him. He runs his YouTube is New Life Tools, I believe. So I'm gonna check him much more out. I'm gonna reach out to him. I'd like to work with this brother. Maybe do a show with him or something. He's quite intelligent. He's on top of it. Anyway, so going back, and this deal, somebody else has said that Brother Rich said he tried to get a hold of me, and I've never responded. Brother Rich, maybe you got the wrong email, brother. I'm barrylittleton13@gmail.com. I would like to work with both you brothers and talk to you a little bit. Now, going forward, okay, this video that was sent to me, it made me watch the whole thing. I put it in the chat, okay? And when I was listening to what this cat was saying for this hour and a half, I was blown away because it's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm always looking for correlations and similarities in contact. All right. And okay, so this starts off, he started talking about one is a ship that he goes to once a month and gets like either training, information, contact scenario. And I'm going to tell you what this brother was describing to me sounded very, very much like what is called the Syrian lenticular spacecraft. That is a video that I have unlisted on my channel. I put a link to it in the chat also. Okay, so everybody link that or mark that and check that out. It's about an hour video that is just unreal when it comes to how ships actually work, organic ones like I've been on, ones that reproduce. Okay, and what this lenticular spacecraft is, the Syrian lenticular craft, it's supposed to be a ship that is in between us and the moon. And it is, I wondered if it might be related to the Koroleski clouds for a minute, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, it's between us and the moon. And what it does is sometimes it moves above Earth. It's huge, it's like a mothership, but it takes people for training. And all these trainings going on. All right. And like on a different level. Now, here's the thing. This is supposed to be a benevolent thing. And in that video, that's the way it's represented. So I wanted to know, because I know right now what sells is negative contact. So what I did was I gave this Syrian lenticular cloud to Jessica Jones as a blind target, a clean blind target. Okay, and I wanted to see if her data, first of all, it's always the question of, is it real or not? Pretty sure it was. But, before that, but that's the first thing. And number two would be, what is she seeing? What is her data getting? Is her data getting an MK Ultra type of program or a DARPA type of program? Is that what the data is showing? It wasn't. It's showing something different, something much more positive. Okay, just about what that video was saying. So in that regard, he is talking about going to that ship, and he talks about how it moves. And I'm gonna tell you, the first time I heard the lenticular ship kind of described, it wasn't called that, but it was back in the early 90s. Louis Farrakhan talked about it. He said he'd been on board it. Okay, so anyway, this is what I believe is going on. Then the brother goes further and he says on board this craft, he met a different type of extraterrestrial. All right, much respect, Brother Yosef. Anyway, I just want to put a picture of him up so people would know who I'm talking about. I know some people get frustrated and say, oh, you mentioned other people's work. Well, it's not the Barry show, unquote. And it's about us coming together and understanding the different types of contact that are going on, those of us that are having it, and have real discernment. And it's not just this BS crap that's part of a narrative. All right. Okay, so he said that he doesn't go on the craft as much right now. but that he met a type of a being, and this is the exact picture that he showed. He said he met this type of beings that looked like these extraterrestrials. There's some type of extraterrestrial, and that they had very light hair, okay, in terms of like thin to almost no hair, but thin, and also these black eyes. And that they told him what they do is that they are uploaders, that they go through a transformation, like they cloak themselves or some type of way or shift to make they look like regular people, and they walk around in our population. And he had mentioned that their favorite thing, they told him their favorite thing to do is walk up to people in a grocery store. And when you're standing there or at a doctor's office and you're talking to them, they look at you in your eyes and they say a few things. And during that time, they instantly hypnotize you, and that gives you give you downloads of what your possible missions could be, possible goals, objectives, and help you get in line with that. And that's what they do. He give a number of so many millions of people a year they do this to. And then him and Brother Rich start talking, and Brother Rich starts saying, man, I got approached, him and his wife or somebody got approached by this tall brother, this tall, very tall brother that came up to them out of a crowd and just said some heavy shit to him, and it was gone, but just made them go, whoa. They're describing charters. Okay, they're describing charters. And I think this is the next phase, I believe. Not just like the ones that I met, and I can't say they're the same, but there's something different that's doing the same type of a charter thing, but it's an advancement. Like Captain Picard would say, engage. I think their engagement has gone up. This is a part of the contact that we're seeing right now. So think about the charters that I've talked about. I mean, it's not much different what this brother was saying. And I'm not just started saying that. I've been saying that stuff since 2014, talking about this. And I think that he's representing a different type of this contact that's going to step forward with these charters. Now, so let's talk briefly about what he had mentioned as far as these beings just looking you in your eye for a very short time and hypnotizing you and giving you downloads at that time. So that takes us into, when looking at hypnosis, which is, the beginning of it is mesmerism, from Mesmer. And, mesmerism was believed to come from the animal magnetic attraction and magnetism of animal magnetism. All right. Now, when going to the different types of mesmerism back in the beginning, before they really evolved hypnosis, there were people looking into people's eyes, and the gaze. They called it the gaze, which is a type of a visual induction. Now, if you were to take this ability of mesmerism with a human or a non-human that has a more intense biofield than us, more magnetism, more magnetic fields than us, and the ability to project through the eyes, the optical nerves. And in this way, think of the same way as you can gaze and cloud bust a cloud with your eyes. But people can only do so many, because then you have to decharge either in a body of water or have sex. Anyway, but the same way, it's the radiation of the eyes that actually take that orgone and dissipate that cloud. So it's the same thing when we start dealing with magnetism of the eyes from these beings that have a different biofield than us. And when you start doing things like I know, which are instant inductions, rapid inductions, instant induction, it takes me less than 8 seconds to put somebody under. Less than that. Instant. Okay, and so it's not much different if you can project that through the optical nerves. So I just wanted to bring that up when dealing with these beings. So the time you look in your eyes, hold on. And this may be, rudimentary for some people, but nonetheless, I think it's worth discussing it, when dealing with, looking at them and that type of magnetic mesmerism, what you're looking is that they're very quickly, through the visual optical nerves, putting people into a deeper alpha state. Okay. And you'd be surprised when studying hypnosis and mesmerism how quickly people can fall into alpha, daydreaming, things of that nature. It happens real easy. And visually, it doesn't take much. I had mentioned a trainer that I had several, a workshop I had taken back in 2000 and God, what was that last one to 2012, and he's an old man that had a huge mandala above the chalkboard, and people kept looking at that mandala and they were going into alpha and they weren't catching everything he was saying, during the the training. At the end, I asked a few questions. I don't remember him saying that. I said, I know, because the visual was getting him. Anyway, same thing right there. So you're looking at that. In fact, they may have been, to a point that they could be putting someone in theta. Like I'll go deep theta with people, which would be about almost technically about a 4.5, 3.5, things like that. Anyway, I'm just giving that so people know what we're dealing with as far as consciousness and the abilities of some of these beings. All right. Show you this picture too. And this is something that I've had for a while. And this is supposed to be supposedly some type of a hybrid. All right. A hybrid that somebody saw. And I can't remember the exact place. But to me, it has similarities to the picture that Brother Yosef showed. But also, if you put a hat on this dude with some sunglasses, in some ways, he reminded me of that charter I talked about. In some ways, this individual here, if you put that corny hat on him and just these weird big old sunglasses, like those blue sunglasses things that make you stick out, but I mean, he just, I don't know, just similarities. And again, Brother Yosef said these cats don't have much hair, but they changed the way they look. They morphed to fit to cloak themselves or walking around in our population. So anyways, just things like that. Like I said, I'm looking for similarities, okay? The next phase of charters. And that makes you wonder, does this connect to the hybrid project also? And is that the future people from the future, these hybrids from the future? How much of that is the hybrid project and how much of it is these beings that are harvesting our emotions? People call it loose, but it's actually our emotions. And the biggest way to do that is show somebody a kid, a baby that's yours. Form a bond with the baby. Hold the baby. All these things that are very good for them harvesting what people are calling loose through emotional connection. So I'm just saying we got to look at both sides of the coin. All right. Oh, well, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so just keeping it there. So I wanted to just show that. And one other thing I want to bring up too. All right. Don't worry, y'all. I'm almost out of picks here. Yeah, and there was some people say, "Oh, thank God." And I put a link to that show that Brother Rich and Brother Yosef did in the chat. So you all can check that out. And I had clients that said that he's mentioned me on more videos than that, but that's the one that was sent to me. So, oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. Something else I wanted to bring up. This one, I don't know if Jessica's in the chat or not, but Penetration by Ingo Swan. You know, this whole topic and book has always amazed me, because when I had first got like out of the hospital after my accident, I'd come across this information about this book, and it was going like $400 for a copy on Amazon. That's long before he died, though. Since he died, I think they may have come down in price. But interesting deal. And fascinating book, what he said about the moon and everything. This is really about the moon, most of this book. But he gives another example, and that's why I'm bringing this up now. He talks about this woman in the grocery store. I don't know if he's in LA or where it was, but he goes in the grocery store, and there's this woman in there, and she's looking at vegetables, and he knows she's an extraterrestrial. Everything about her, a muscular woman. And then he sees these guys that had taken him to look at the moon, or at least escorted him to this, wherever he viewed it at, watching her. And then later on, these people had took him again, got with him, and asked him, how many times have you seen that woman? And he talked about how attractive she was, but she just looked very alien. And they asked her, how many times have you seen that woman? And he said, that's the only time I've ever seen her. And they kept asking her, are you sure? He said, yeah. And they told her, she's dangerous. She's very, very dangerous. But my same question is that also some type of charter? Just food for thought. And I think that this individual, considering he was technically the father of remote viewing, right? Fascinating book. And so many things of what he said about remote viewing the moon is stuff I hear duplicated by other remote viewers. Not Jessica, but others that say almost the exact same story he gave, which makes me question sometimes the validity. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? I gotta keep it 100, y'all. But anyway, good book, good read. And is that a charter he's dealing with there? Is that one of the charters that might be somehow connected to the one that Brother Yosef was talking about? All right, I'll look over it. Yeah. So that's what I want to kind of go through. It's just the difference, how this may be an advancement of charters, how it's another part of the contactee scenario needs to be acknowledged. And it's not all SSP, it's not all MK Ultra, it's not all DARPA. There's something else going on. We do have beings operating on this earth that are in junction with the divine field, that are in alignment with the divine field. And I don't care what anybody says, the divine field is real. It's not just BS. And there's certain things that happen with the divine field. You know, that's how when I do an earthbound spirit release, I'm able to identify one of these beings that is a negative, almost demonic for lack of better words, and not an earthbound spirit that's just twisted by death itself or by the shock of death. There are certain things that those negatives can't do, that it exposes them just like that if you know what it is. Okay, so that is what it is. And some of these negatives are from other dimensions and from space. Some of them from space, they land here on the astral, on that level of Earth that has no consciousness without body, opposed to us, we have conscious with body, and they're here right with us. And so some of them extraterrestrial, but they're demonic in nature. And some of them are pure thought forms. I've encountered some of those in Earthbound Spirit release, and that's no BS. So, so I'm aware of both sides of these things, and don't think that I'm like the love and light brother. It's not that I'm saying. All right. It's that I'm trying to tell you, though, what's realistic and some of the crap that we hear, and something else that's going on with contact right now that a lot of these people aren't talking about. When I started talking about these charters, I've gotten more responses on charters than almost anything else. And think about it, how often that may have happened to you. Just, at one point, somebody comes up to you, they just say something heavy, and they catch you in a public place. And how many times somebody you talk to in a public place and they're gone, you don't know who they were, where they come from. Was it a homeless person that came up and made you feel like, whoa, they have some sort of a different vibe to them? You couldn't take your eyes off of them? Did they say something to you that maybe triggered your experiences, pushed you forward? In that way, here. Just for reference. It's a lot like this. I think these charters are doing that, but something else that's doing this, which is pushing our perception forward. Okay, something like this ore station. And I've said before, that's the thing that's inside of Mount Adams. There's a device similar to that. It looks like these Merkabah things with the projecting these actually, as to where I see there are also pyramids illustrated around these, but this thing is an orb. It makes orbs, orb technology. And what happens is this thing scans your life memories, and then it produces an orb, which is most likely microscopic. Some of them not seen out there, but one of those gets in your field of awareness, and it does something to push your awareness further. Let's say you've never seen, you're out there at a SETI, you've never seen no Sasquatch. And despite the fact that there may be sometimes somebody walking around in a suit out there, I've been hearing that, but never mind that, there's something else going on out there. But when you're dealing with this device, it scans your life memories. You've never seen a Sasquatch. Okay, then all of a sudden you're seeing one walking through the field and it dematerializes. Or you've not seen a UFO, you're seeing them coming out of the mountain. Something that just pushes your perception forward. That's that ore station. And I'll tell you before, I got so blown away when I went out there in 2016. When I was invited back to 2017, I had to know what I was dealing with. I had a feeling I had been inside the mountain. I heard that dude, Travis, whatever his name is, from Skinwalker, saying the Native Americans told him that he'd been inside the mountain with the sky beings, inside the mesa out there. Now, I think in a SETI, the same thing happens. So that dimensional door and inside that mountain. And I had Jessica remote view right next door to the SETI sleeping lady, where I saw that holographic UFO. She saw a city inside that mountain complex, just like I did during my regression. So stuff like that happens to us on different conscious levels, that's unreal. And, then 2 years later, and I never really told anybody about that regression I did before 2017. And then when I go out there in 2019, I meet, 2 years later, John Vivinco released right hemispheric remote viewing. You can type in that and type in remote viewing the ancient aliens of the SETI Ranch, and his team saw something like this inside the mountain. And when I met him, I couldn't wait to meet him. I let him look at this Keys of Enoch book, and I showed him this right here. And I said, man, and let him read it. In fact, just for the shits and giggles, excuse my language, for the giggles, let me read again what it says about ore stations in here. Ore stations, network centers for the docking of technology from advanced civilizations capable of travel between galaxies and super galaxies. Now, we just got done talking about superclusters, okay, and superfilaments that make them. We were talking about melanin dominant beings from Black Terrestrials and Triangulum Galaxy, and how the Triangulum Galaxy and the Milky Way is part of what's called Laniakea. I think that's pronouncing that correct. But there's like, only about, 50,000 galaxies in just that small area. Laniakea, 50,000, is it? Or 50 million? Anyway, I don't know, but it's a whole bunch. So we start dealing with that when dealing with contact and consciousness. We have to start taking it to this level and realizing how they're using things like this new neuroprogramming to jam stuff like this, using hive mind concepts to mess this type of communication up. All right. And I've asked before, I wonder how many of these devices from when we were like a type 2 civilization are still working on Earth. And due to the fact that so many people go out to the SETI and lived out there, and how the hell they don't know half that thing is holographic they're seeing out there, blows me away. So it shows me that certain of us, whether it's blood or it's just a soul print, activate these things when we get near them. And it starts scanning us. It scans our life memories, and it sends something, disseminates, excuse me, I'm getting excited, sorry. Disseminates an orb to get in your biofield to push your perception forward. So this is, again, something else I had Jessica remote view. You know, we've done some really good work together. I'm super proud of. We're nearing 100 targets. We're at like 96. No, we're going to make it, dude. Anyway, keep it at 100. And look, folks, I don't make the rules. I just try to understand this. I've had weird experiences, and I try to understand what they are and use some science, some spirituality, some things to just figure out what in the HE double hockey sticks is going on. All right. Greetings, Amiriel. Ah, that's right. Now, Rosie had mentioned that she sent me a message saying that she had a experience with somebody that looked like, maybe it was the first guy that Brother Yosef had showed and said he interacted with, and she had to deal with that. See, that's putting stuff together. That's outstanding. That's why I'm doing all this, is for little stuff like that. Uh-oh. Guess I'm way behind on comments, but what else is new? Pleiadians. Yeah, well, internet problems, but we're still here. Thank you for update on that. Love it you are talking amongst yourself. Yeah, please check out Rosie's channel. I hope you put your channel up there, Rosie. I'm going to try to get Rosie on. Rosie's in a different country. Frequently, 2 different countries, right? Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to try to get her on just so she can really talk about her knowledge of mermaids. As a matter of fact, why don't I give Rosie some props here, actually, because I like, very cool young person. Here. No, it's not that either. I'll find it. Y'all bear with me just one moment, and I'll show you what I'm. And it's something that Rosie had actually shown me. So I want to really try to, if I can just find it here. Because I actually used it for a video. No, it's not under that. It must be under. Ah, here it is. Okay. Here it is. In fact, here's a couple of them. Ah, found them. Okay, so I did a video that was called, if you go to the playlist and go to Isetti Ranch, okay, I did a video that was called Sasquatch Communications. It was the third time I went out there, and for whatever reason, the third time I went out there, my camera actually worked on my phone. Each time, like something would happen, that I was out there 2 times speaking, I didn't have a camera on my phone, but this time I had a different, newer phone, and it worked. So I took a bunch of pictures around this yurt thing that I stayed in, and I've got to show you a basic picture of the yurt. And here's the thing, okay, I must have, and I one of the conditions of me speaking out there, excuse me, was that I wanted to stay in the same yurt each time because of what happened to me, the experiences I had the first time out there. So that's this yurt. And I tell you, I must have taken about 24 pictures of this thing, trying to get that Peter Parker shot. You know what I mean? And I was doing things in the back of this thing. I was trying to do a gifting type deal, because it was these, I would do these like stones with these apples. I had 2 different types of apples, red and green. And the red ones started getting like these weird marks in them, just messed up, like 8. And it turns out these robins were coming out and pecking only the red ones. And something started communicating with me with the green ones, moving them, and took 1 or 2 of them. And I saw what looked like almost a half footprint. It's all in that video. And the thing is this, okay, of all 3 years I was out there, this one in 2019, this was the Corey Good conference. This was the busiest one of all. There was hundreds of people out there, more than I've ever seen. Okay, at least well over 100. I know that for sure. Probably 2 or more. It's supposed to be the biggest conference they ever had. But I was really paying attention, make sure nobody was going behind this thing or knew what I was doing. So I was on constant surveillance of this cabin, of making sure nobody was going back there. No one would even need to. There's like a swamp thing back there. And those of you that are familiar with the first year I was out there, it's behind this thing that the trees were pushed over and cracked. Okay? And this is also the same place where the first year I was out there, the rocks on the doorstep. Okay, this is the same place. So anyway, I put several of these videos up, or these pictures up, during this video. And during this video, Rosie sent me messages saying, Barry, how tall is that that cabin? And I was like, oh, it's probably 14 feet up or so. She goes, well, you were definitely being watched. And whatever it was is close to that tall. Hold on, let me find another one. Now, what tripped me out about this is whatever it was that was moving these green apples only, it means not only was it watching all the people out there like I was, watching me, and also watching the robins only eat these red apples. They'd all come out when nobody was around. They picked the red apples only. So whatever this was messing with that. Okay, then Rosie sends me this picture. Oh, let me get it. There it is. And she says, yeah, you were definitely being watched. And She's like, Barry, this isn't pareidolia. She goes, this is my gift as I can see these things. And I was wondering, how in the hell is this thing beating me? I mean, I was on full ninja duty, Batman duty, and I was getting smoked. I just done a thing about invisibility, and I was getting smoked with my own shit, man. She sends me this picture. This is one of the ones I had taken. And she says, this isn't pareidolia. And there's another one I've got where she's got some arrows pointing up there. And you can almost see this thing holding on to the deal. It's looking down at me. You see the eyes? We talk about these things cloaking and about the green and all that stuff. How they might have some types of chlorophyll in their blood or in their hair. There you go, comparing them to the green man. And you don't understand, it was tripping me out. I was like, how is this thing beating me? I mean, I was on full duty. I was watching everything. And that thing was getting around me, messing with those apples, moving the entire structure that the little setup I had, like, 15 feet away from where it was. And I couldn't figure out how I was getting beat. So anyway, it's Rosie that outlined that and sent that to me. I don't know if you can see my little deal here, but right there, the eyes, you see it, cone head to a degree. And it looks to me like almost a phase, like it's holding on to the bark there. It looks like when you start looking at that thing that's called thin film bending light, how oil on them also would bend light also. Thin film, can't want to say thin film. Anyway, it's a way that the light thin film resonates. Anyway, it bends the light. The oil on there, as well as if you've got something else, a type of hair with camouflage in it, like the ones that, what's his name, that actually done some analysis of different hair, and one of them showed this that had camouflage abilities, and that was what was his name, not Scott Carpenter, who's the other guy that did the. Anyway, never mind. Anyway, I just want to give her credit on that. It was pretty cool because it solved some things to me to know exactly what was going on. And I mean, now I think about it, it's kind of creepy because I was walking, all the way around that thing. I never saw that thing. I took pictures. I was closer to that. There's a little mud on the other side of that tree where that thing is standing, so I wouldn't go that far over. But still, I didn't see any footprints on that area or anything. And it also describes, if you saw the broken pictures broken trees that I showed from the first year I was out there, that was to catch my attention. I said whatever that thing was would have to be, if it pushed it over at chest height, it would have to be at least 12 feet tall or taller. And that's why I was kind of tripping. So anyway, there you go. Yeah, so here's another one she sent. Hold on. Here's one more. Yeah. Yeah. So I did another video that's called Sasquatch Confirmations. That includes all these pictures, and I also showed the little setups I was putting behind the thing, as well as what looked like that potential footprint to me. Yeah, that's Rosie sent that to me also. I was tripping on that. I was like, damn. I mean, it was gratifying because I got to tell you, it was the only way. But by the same token, I got completely smoked on my own thing, man. On my own invisibility stuff, I got smoked. Thin film interference is what that is called. Okay. Anyway, so you see the dome hair, you see the face. I mean, I see a complete face there, but it just messed me up. I was like, man, I got smoked. I got smoke with my own stuff. So much for my ninja shadow league techniques. I'm pretty good, but they got me. Those cats are much better. So anyway, that's just here. Let's see. Real quick, one last thing that I'll just show. This is just an example. I've got some other things too, but this is a small example of what thin film interference is. So when people say that, that Sasquatch is very oily and those fingerprints are always put on the walls and on glass and stuff and on cars, it shows you that they're very oily. Okay, and if they're that oily, they're capable of doing this thin film interference. And that's just one of the basic things of it there. But the same thing goes with their hair. And you think about what people saying, if there's chlorophyll in their hair, like has been seen in some of it, it's the perfect camouflage. And it explains how people say, well, they look like Predator, the way Predator would bend light around them with those devices. They have that same natural ability. So these are just things to be aware of. You know what I mean? And I've heard David Paulides talk about the hair that they got, but I've never heard him mention chlorophyll. But I have heard that other individual. Who was that? Was it Scott Carpenter? But they talked about that they've even did a thing. They showed the hair that had this type of a chlorophyll in it that had a green tinge to it. Some of the hair was clear with a green tinge. And that would be just what's needed. Just half of that within the coat would be enough to use the oil to also do a thin film interference. And this is amongst the other things they may have the ability to do. There's other ways to do invisibility too, which is you have this ability here, and you know that people see first motion, then silhouette, then color. Okay, in that way. And also people have a line of sight. They only look so high up and high below unless they get one of those things, a movement or something, unless they're trained. Okay, so that gives you a very serious deficit right there. And then you've got this ability to do these things. I mean, that's not even supernatural, folks. You know what I mean? Now, there are techniques to use pranayama breaths, kriya breaths, to try to gather an electron cloud around you that bends light as well, or absorbs the light. That's a different technique given by, oh God, I got a book for that. Anyway, I did a video over invisibility, but or a video over it. All right. Oh, sorry. Yeah, very cool. Thank you for sharing that too, Rosie. Yeah, that brother's cool. So if you know, I don't know his email. I've not gotten it yet. I'll try to find it. So anybody got his email, put it on the thing, will you? Because I want to talk to that cat, man. I really have appreciation, not just because he mentioned my name, but he's on point. He's very on point, and I like people who aren't fake. That's not what he's talking about. It's not cookie cutter. It's real. I feel that Artron energy coming off him, straight up. What's up, Jonah Side? Thank you for being here. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Yeah, he's a nice cat, man. And Brother Rich is pretty cool too. I mean, interesting. And when I talk about when I talk about these charters, and I can always say, like for me, I haven't seen anything that makes them like, oh, you must be from another planet or something like that. Like some of these quote unquote hybrids or charters, they might have, like, let's say, an ear. Some of the humanoid extraterrestrials are mentioned as having on their ear, not having a lobe quite like we do. It's kind of a connection right there. That's one of the few things you might be able to identify one of them, along with a different eye structure. You know, the second, what I met when I was 21. First, I've been honest about that. All right, I was in a position where she was with some other people, and she approached me. And I'll be honest, that's why I kind of believe in the inner earth thing, because this sister was emitting some sort of pheromones or something that was kicking me black ass. I promise you, man. My mind was going other places, and she started reading me telepathically. Then I tried to block her, and she came through my shields. I'm pretty strong, okay? And it was like, shocked me. She's a stronger telepath than me. And when I asked her, I was like, man, I couldn't quite place her ethnicity or her race. I was like, you know what? I was like, you know, I was like, what race are you? And she looks at me, she says, oh, I'm of Guatemalan and, what was it? What did she say? I'm of Guatemalan and Mayan descent or something like that, she said. And it was like a way you wouldn't even just respond. Most people wouldn't. And it was a very interesting encounter. And that's why I believe that she was maybe somebody from inner earth. And she knew those people she was with, but how many people you know and have hung out with or partied with, and you don't know where they go when they leave? You don't know where they live. You don't really know anything about them. You don't even really know where they work. They say this and that, but you don't know that. You know what I mean? So anyway, can't say I agree with that. That's a good perspective. You know, I think if you look more and maybe look into more of what I said about melanin dominant extraterrestrials from M33, I think that's not true, man. I'm just being honest. I think what we're seeing on Earth is a reflection of something that's going on galactic as well. Because look, here on Earth, man, there is a problem. Nobody wants to talk about black extraterrestrials or ethnic extraterrestrials. People want to stick to the tall whites. That's all we hear about. How come you don't hear about the tall blacks? When you got Sudanese people that look like they might be the tall blacks, it does matter. It is an issue. And I think it's an issue there too. You know what I mean? Maybe as we progress, why I bring this up is because for us to be a type 1 civilization like Gene Roddenberry was trying to show us on the original Star Trek, we're still not quite there. We're getting there, but we're still not quite there. My father just passed. He would have been like the 4th black in the NBA, what's NBA now. And he chose not to go pro. He went semi-pro because of all the racism he had taken. And it was so horrible. And he still walked the earth until just a couple of months ago. Okay, so things have not progressed far enough yet, but we're trying to get there. Get to that type 1 civilization where you had something everybody on the bridge of the Enterprise. And if you look at what they were really trying to represent on the cartoon series of the original series, you had a bunch of non-humans on board the bridge as well. So in that way, when we go forward in that type 1 civilization, we can accept like what this Uranta book here says. And that's one real problem I have with this book is when it goes into the racial part. It's so much crap. But they do talk about the orange man, the blue man, the violet man, the others that walked on Earth, and the other races. Okay, so that much is worthy. But when it starts dealing with like pure melanin, the darkest of melanin, it's dismissive, and it's written in a way that's very racist, and right now does not hold up against modern genetic testing, straight up. But I think that crap was put in there to stop somebody like me from reading it. Okay? So anyway, just food for thought on that. Buddha. Awesome. Everybody's describing experiences. Very cool, man. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And, you know, and here's the thing about these charters, okay? Even beyond anything else, just if you're somebody that can feel energy, when you're in the presence of one, their energy pushes you. Okay, and when I say that, it doesn't push you like the way somebody with ADHD or something like that, or that type of an erratic feeling. it's just like they're just a more advanced, like they're a step or two ahead of us. And that's what I mean when I think they're humans from the future. Whether they were raised off planet, on planet, subterranean, hey folks, I don't know. But it's, all up for it's up for a gamble. I mean, I don't know. Auntie Erin, what up? Thank you for coming. It's always good to hear you too. Yeah, wonderful. Caesar haircut. I guess so. Oh, hot air, hot. I don't know. I don't think you quite got to 100 today. We got to 104 or 5 the other day. 106. It's horrible, man. I would be surprised if, like, let's say, quote, Alex, I run into him again. I'm starting to wonder because I think that he wouldn't be probably looking much different than he did then. I don't know. I mean, that's been a long time ago, but I think that their aging is not the same, especially when you're dealing with humanoids that are working with time technology and vortex technology. It's a whole nother thing going on, I think. Boom. What's up, King? Right on, right on. In fact, here, I'll show you one last picture I have. Oh, no, actually, I got 2 other pictures. I believe this is another experiencer picture of what would be another charter. Boom, there you go. In some ways, that kind of reminds me of the sister that I met. In some ways, more ethnicity to her, but it reminded me somewhat of that, and I believe that's somehow how it works. And at the beginning, I believe that they also, at some point, the first one that comes to us, I think they often have to make some type of physical contact with us, and that's part of their charting. And it may be that they can be also male or female, meaning they can move the assemblage point, like we talked about the death defiers. And this is, I'll just show this because I find it interesting. And although obviously I'm not really a fan of this individual that drew these, I think he's quite arrogant, but we won't go into that. I get turned off by a lot of these people in these communities. But nonetheless, his illustration is interesting. The almost Asian looking cat over here on the left, I find that interesting. Then when you start going over to the lady on the right, that reminds me of when I had Jessica remote view, which was what the Arturo Robles deal, and also the Peter Corey thing. That woman seems to have the similarities to me. Anyway, that's that reptilian guy that drew these. He did some good drawings. This is before AI, but anyway, I find that type of being on the left interesting, especially because it seems to be of Asian descent, which I've seen others represented, but that could possibly be a charter too. Just food for thought. Like I said, I look for similarities. They all have the ability to turn you off. Turn you off. And, it's amazing if you start looking at experiencers and contact narrative stories or accounts. you see a lot of times people will hear helicopter sound, helicopter blades from nowhere before they get hit with that technology. I've always found that interesting. They come at time of high solar activity. Always check the solar activity if you're getting Mandela effects. Yes, and some of them, well, the non-humans I've encountered, Amiriel, some of them have the ability to give. It's their biofield that gives what I call what they call Shakti Pat. In fact, if you go to the playlist, extraterrestrial beings and interdimensional beings, there's one on there called non-humans and Shakti Pat. That's happened to me. I've been around in a biofield of some of these non-humans, and it gives you this almost euphoria, like it's a Kundalini release. You know what I mean? It feels a lot like that. And I think that that is maybe for some of these beings just a natural byproduct when we're in their biofield. Very interesting, but that's another one of these things, the other side that can kind of get you blissed out during the experience. Yeah, it works. It works. Only thing, there was a book. I don't think I have a copy of it up here. A book that really got me into doing that was a book by Trevor Constable called The Cosmic Pulse of Life. I don't have it in here, the copy of it in here. Anyway, it was, he did a lot of real Wilhelm Reich stuff, taking it forward as he was a weather engineering. And it was, man, absolutely killer, the stuff. That's when I started learning really how to effectively bust clouds in my eyes, and I'd already practiced some other gazing techniques and things that were connected to Kriya Yoga, like sun gazing and water gazing, stuff like that. But that, the cloud busting thing is a trip, and I mentioned before, I'd built a couple of those primitive cloud busters, and I noticed that they get overcharged too, just like we do. And then started messing with Nimbus Cloud. Honey Bear, thank you for being here. Lost some time. Might want to get a regression. Shoot me an email, barrylittleton13@gmail.com. If you lost time, that's regression. Find out what happened, Normally it's worth it. Brother Yosef said that the being that he met that one, that guy, that they had the black eyes, which is interesting, always. I don't think it ties to black-eyed children, but Jessica, what's up? I mentioned you a few times. I put the thing of when you remote viewed this Syrian lenticular cloud and something else I mentioned, but I don't know if I linked it up there. Hey, thanks, Muriel. I appreciate that. Even though I'm a little bit like, what is it? Kind of a little bit disabled technically wise, but we get them up there, right? Thank you for that. Oh, thanks, Lavender Sky. Oh, thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, that's really nice. Thank you, because I do worry about that. Greetings. Oh, what? Oh, well, I'm going way far back. What's up, Jessica? Which book? Keys of Enoch, maybe, or Uranta? Right on, right on. I'm not sure which one you all are talking about. Is it the Uranta book or maybe the Keys of Enoch book? Keys of Enoch is a really good book. Technically, I like it a little more than the Uranta because it's more scientific. At some points, the Uranta book just gets so neo-Christian, which is cool for those that are into that, but I don't have a religion, so I get, it's like, man. I wouldn't argue with that at all. That's a good statement. That's a good statement there. Oh, they're tearing people up. They're tearing people up. That's important. What a great chat. What a great chat. Wow. How cool, man. Glad to see everybody's rapping. See, it's amazing how many people have had a charter experience. Trust me, because when I first came forward, I was nervous that first interview, and I just relayed a lot of several of the things that I knew, and some things I got hit about. One would be the charters, and another would be mana, the creature mana that I had experienced, the amphibian. That one seemed to generate a lot of information, or a lot of what do you call bruja. Uh-oh, where was I? Sorry, I messed up the little thing there. You know, I do believe that our internet is encoded. I think by multiple intelligences, some artificial, perhaps some even organic. Hey, thanks, Rosie. Appreciate that. How cool. How cool. Yep. Yep. Like I said, and like I said, their energy, it just pushes you a little bit. And it's in an odd way that like makes you, I don't know, advanced. It's advanced. If you're somebody that can pick up energy, you'll catch it when you're around them. And it's always real brief and then they're just gone. You know what I mean? Hey, what's happening? Hey, oh, no problem. My pleasure. My pleasure. And it took me a minute to really kind of figure out what was going on, but it like was, it's just so odd. And when I start talking to other contactees and going forward with us, I realized this is something going on here. It's like a program they do. It's a part of the contact deal. You know what I mean? But now it's just going forward. It's accelerating. And if you have these beings, like Brother Yosef said, if they're doing millions of people a year, that is that's an upgrade. And we need to upgrade, Joe. Wow. Wow. Fantastic. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love working with Jessica. Done some really good work. Really good work. Rosy Cheeks and Sunfire Goddess. You two should definitely, I think, communicate a little bit. Definitely. Very cool. I was trying, man. I was thinking, and it sucks because, man, Lavender Sky, I must have erased like 20, 25 shots. You know what I mean? I wonder how many others could have been seen in those other picks. But I was just frustrated I didn't get the right pick. At the same time, I was sort of like, how the heck am I getting? That's even before that thing started smoking me over there. I may have taken those shots before I even actually put out those things. The gifting, I can't remember exactly, but I mean, it was on me from beginning to end. And it says how, and I've heard how a Sasquatch can just stand in one place for hours and hours, or lay in one place for hours, like all day or longer, just waiting for you to come by, knowing you're going to be there. It gives them a definite advantage to us in some ways, you know? Hey. Isn't that a trip? I mean, if it wasn't for Rosie, I would never have seen that. I would never have seen it. And it was just those are the two videos. Sasquatch communications and Sasquatch confirmations. They'll be in both the ASETI playlist on this channel and also in the Sasquatch playlist also. Yep. Boom. Exactly. Exactly. Thin film interference, actually, but between that and the chlorophyll within the hair, it would also give the ability to refract for light refraction also. So that is correct. No, you're doing just fine. I always try to make things to where hopefully they're understandable for most people. Ah, thanks, Jessica. Right on. Thanks. I give Rosie credit for that. Right on. I agree. I agree. Hey, man, I agree. I'm blown away by their abilities to do that. And their abilities alone really, really intrigue me. I can't help it, you know? Whether we want to call them Nephilium or whatever, but they do have these spiritual gifts that are like, man. Yeah, I have I have one. Check out the one there too, Claude, that is on the channel there. It's called My SETI Ranch Squirrel Experience. Yeah, something's going on to where I think that they can shapeshift not into just animals we're familiar with, but also into tree stumps. And they can look like tree stumps. Hey, greetings, John. Thank you. You know, John, I was just I don't know if you're on Facebook, John. I had just posted a video today that when I was in Australia, I saw it as a mermaid video. And it's from 18 years ago. It was filmed 18 years ago and posted 18 years ago. But I saw it when I was in Australia about 6 years ago, and I've never seen it again. But it came up on my feed this morning. So I put it on Facebook. It's a pretty good one, actually. A mermaid in Australia. Yep. Anybody might have seen yesterday, Thinker Thunker put out like a bunch of videos. One of them is the BC Sasquatch that steps in the hole and his foot still is behind it. You know, he shows at the very beginning of that, he starts showing that this thing is doing something. It's got something shiny. And he dismisses it as whatever he's holding, whatever it's holding is shiny. And you can see how the same sun is glittering on the back of its back and it's shining the same way. And that's what's lighting it up. But then after that, he shows in this thing, it goes like this. And it's like it takes off. I think it was a freaking orb. I think it was an orb. Thinker Thunker just put that out like yesterday. And it's the one, yeah, it's and he's doing other things with it to show he's more going on about the legs. But check out the first 30, 45 seconds of that when he shows this shiny thing that this thing has. Now, Jessica and I have done, actually, I gave her a remote viewing target of that too. Sasquatch with an orb. That's something people see. So I think not just maybe they can turn into orbs, which is fine if they have that ability to morph the dream body, the energy body. I said that before, are Sasquatch dreamers. Okay, so they would have that capability just like the Toltecs did. But also, are we dealing with also extraterrestrial interdimensional beings as well that they're working with? An alliance that is of that nature. Remember, we're dealing with, type 1 civilization. So, oh no. Oh. Ooh. Right on. I need to do some of that myself. Oh, sorry. I think I screwed up and went backwards, everybody. I'm sorry. Let me try to go forward here. You guys have such a great Right on. Oh, right on, right on. Mm, I'd say I fully agree with that. I met humanoids that have that ability too, so I can't really agree with that, man. It doesn't mean they're interdimensional. Just Galactic Federation. I'm curious. How do you know that? How do you know don't fall for them according to what? According to you and according to stuff that we hear in the media? I got to say, keeping it 100, go back and maybe look at the crop circles that I had Jessica remote view, the orbs that make them, and see what came out of that. And maybe that could be disinformation too. Look, the beings that I've dealt with don't call themselves the Galactic Federation. They call themselves something else. But when wanting to see who is it that was messing with the missiles, showing that they could be deactivating it, and also another target I gave her is look, and it's just stuff that I want to know. People are so into the Zimbabwe children, but what about this book here by Preston Dennett? Okay, Schoolyard Encounters. The Zimbabwe children were not the only ones. He's got like 78, 80 cases in here, okay, that are similar. Schoolyard Encounters. So I want to know, who was it that is messing with the nuclears? Who is it that is also taking the time to talk to the children to say save the planet? Who is it? So she remote viewed that. That name came up. I have to accept that to a degree. Okay, and I've always just mocked it because it's not the beings I deal with. I deal with another alliance that's something different. We've got so many different, but to just hear, oh, they're evil, this and that, give us proof. Don't just say something like that. I think it discredits some people's contact experiences because it's a narrative that y'all are going for. I'm just keeping it 100. There's people like you that say, oh, they're demons too, and all extraterrestrials are demon. They're not. Some are. Some are demonic like, and some of them don't even have bodies. But you can't say that across the gamut. You just can't. See that you sound sorry, you sound a little off, my friend. I hate to say that. You sound just a little I won't go into that, man. But to each their own. The Ranted book talks about the blue beings. We can also talk about blue beings. Let's say there were a form of the Nomo. Some of the Nomo were also said to be blue. But the Uranta over there talks about the blue race that was here quite a bit and the violet race. So, but you've got blue beings that were also, if you look at books like the Urugu and also, which one is it? But it talks about there were blue beings here, and then the firmament fell, and the melanin, they also turned darker black after a generation or so because of the cosmic ray exposure. So it gives you several different types of melanin dominant blacks here. So, again, food for thought. Good question. And I have seen some of them, represented in India too. I think what's his name talks about it. Praveen Mohan. That cat's pretty bad. Greetings, Gary. What up, man? All right. Allison, what's going on? Welcome, my friend. Thank you for being here. Very cool. Thought I was caught up. I'm way behind on these, aren't I? Wow, it's so cool. There are actually people here, man. Wow, that's interesting. That's a good place to store. That's what Brother Yosef said that they told him. That's their favorite thing is to walk up to people while they're at a store and say a couple things to them, look them dead in their eye, and then they're doing that download almost immediately. And if you think about what I've been telling y'all for a long time now, when seeing people that are just seeing a UFO, and this is before the era of the drones, okay? But you saw a UFO for maybe just 5 seconds or something, and nobody else could see it. But all of a sudden, a few nights later, you're having dreams about extraterrestrials or dreams about being in weird places, or maybe even before you saw the UFO. That's the way this contact goes because it's a conscious event, So yeah. Which aliens are dangerous? Well, you've got several types of grays I wouldn't trust. If you hear the things about some types of reptilians, they're not trustworthy. But I've had a regression with a client that was being used by some of these agencies to summon Baal with other telepathic contactee type kids in one of those gate programs. Okay, and they had mentioned being in this facility that was outside but surrounded by industrial, like a base of some type. But in the middle of it is like open, and these huge ships come down. And these ships they open, and like all these beings come off each one of them, like 3 of them they described. And all these beings line up and turn their back. Some of them turn their backs to these children. They won't look at them. And they're describing all different types of beings. Giant ants, like similar to our ants, but big one. Different insectoids, different humanoid, just all sorts of different beings. And that there was some type of a dark alliance they were doing, trying to summon this dark creature, Baal. And that only these kids were apparently able to do it. And they talked about, they described being tested during this gate type of program thing. And then I'll tell you, there were a lot of screen memories they were giving them then at the point of the experience. And also, as many sessions I've been in, they throw screen memories during a session. I know how to get through them. I know how to spot them too. They'll throw screen memories right then and there, trying to keep people off what they're actually had experienced. So it's something like that that makes it like every race, apparently you've got those that are derelict. And you have those races that are just, I guess, evil all the way around, what we would call that. But you've got these others that you've got, renegades and derelicts of every race that's dealing with that dark stuff. You know what I mean? That negative. Hopefully that answered that. It may just took us further down the. Oh, Ingo Swan. Penetration. Yeah. I think they're affordable now. Right on. I'm not an expert on Antarctica, but I can tell you this. Brandon, if you go to my channel, you're on my channel. If you go to the playlist and go to remote viewings with Jessica Jones, I've given her a couple of targets in Antarctica. She remote viewed that big pyramid there, the Black Pyramid of Antarctica, that's one. And another one was those black octagon structures that are there. And then I believe also there's one anomalous containment zone may have taken her to Antarctica also. So there's 3 of them on there that concern that. And they'll all be underneath the remote viewing with Jessica Jones. Yeah. Wow, I thought I was caught up. That's super cool that I'm actually falling behind. Is everybody talking? Oh no, I'm down to the bottom where I always have a problem messing stuff up. Great. Greetings. Thank you for being here. Oh, oh. Greetings, Tees 2015. Thanks for being here, Amir. I'm not far behind you either. Oh. Steamboating, thanks. Well, I appreciate everybody being here. And again, this is something I want to address. Much love to Brother Yosef, Brother Rich, much respect. Thank you all for being here and joining me. This was a cool one. I enjoyed this one, and it's something a little bit different, but I think it relates to a lot. I think it involves a lot more than us all, and just it's a broad scope. And I think it's part of the experience and the phenomenon that's taken us into type 1 civilization. And it's not the type of stuff that we're hearing so much about in the mainstream or in these groups and things, but it's very real. You know, something going down, and I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention, give some props where it's due. Thank you all for being here. Thanks, Jessica. Thank you for being here and getting my back as always. Aussie Ange. What's going on, Angie? Good to hear from you. Definitely. Hey, well, thank you very much, everybody. And I will see you next week. I will come back for another live, try to have a cool topic. I don't know about the Friday ones. If you're somebody that really enjoyed the Friday lives I was doing, please put a message in when I render this and after comment things. I might start doing them again, but it seemed like not many people were that into that. Like not many people are into the short fast blast anymore. So I'm kind of doing the lives on Sunday and enjoying it and trying to bring it hard and as much correct info as I can. Thank you for being here. Much love. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And peace. Boom. Oh, boom.